Good morning, everyone. I'm back with another video. This time it's science policy talk, I guess you could say. You have in this picture Scott Pruitt, who is I want to get his title correct, the administrator of the Environmental Protection Agency for the U.S. With all the controversy going on with President Tangerine and his constituents and cohorts, this adds another log on the fire. The title of the article: EPA announces a new rule. One likely effect is less science and policy making. This comes from the New York Times. I'll leave the link in the description box. It's published yesterday, April 24th. Critics of the proposed measure say it will undercut the agency's ability to protect public health. Because when you take scientists and science-related professionals out of the arena to help make policy to protect people, protect citizens of this country, of the Republic, you are doing a disservice to those individuals. And I think this is the goal of this administration. But before I make any rash statements, I want to go through the article. And of course, I'm reading this for the first time. The only thing I've done is skim through and remove the ads, as usual. So coming from Washington, the EPA announced a new regulation Tuesday that would restrict the kinds of scientific studies the agency can use when it develops policies, a move critics say will permanently weaken the agency's ability to protect public health. Under the measure, the EPA will require that the underlying data for all scientific studies used by the agency to formulate air and water regulations be publicly available, meaning that a lot of them may not be publicly available right now. That would sharply limit the number of studies available for consideration because much research relies on confidential health data from study subjects. Scott Pruitt, the EPA administrator, announced the proposed regulation this afternoon, so yesterday afternoon, at agency headquarters, flanked by Republican lawmakers who sponsored legislation designed to achieve the same ends as the new regulation. The science that we use is going to be transparent, it's going to be reproducible. Supporters and critics alike say the policy will have far-reaching consequences that could limit the EPA's ability to regulate carbon emissions, air pollution, and pesticides. Okay. If you remove scientists who conduct the studies from regulation talks and political discussions, it makes it difficult for there to be stricter regulations because you have politicians whose pockets are clearly being greased by a lot of these companies. There's videos out there, I think I've done a couple of videos similar to this, where you're putting people in positions who don't have any expertise in the areas they're going to be working in under this administration. So I would be a critic of this new policy if it passes. The new regulation means that some of the most important research of the past decades, for example, studies linking air pollution to premature deaths and measuring human exposure to pesticides, Monsanto, we're talking to you, would not be available to policymakers if scientists were unwilling to break the confidentiality agreements they struck with study subjects in order to collect sensitive personal information. Enacting the policy as a regulation, as the EPA intends to do, will involve accepting comments from the public and going through a lengthy bureaucratic process. So basically, this will slow down the process. But if finalized, the measure would be difficult for a future administration to unravel. Public health and environmental groups have vowed to challenge the move in court. Richard J. Lazarus, a professor of environmental law at Harvard, said Mr. Pruitt would be walking into a judicial minefield. if he told the EPA to no longer consider certain studies during agency rulemaking. That, Mr. Lazarus said, would be considered an arbitrary and capricious decision under the Administrative Procedure Act, which governs agency rulemaking and would subject any agency regulation issued based on such a defective record to ready judicial invalidation. So that sounds like a lot of words. What it's really saying is this would not work. That's what I'm getting from this, from that long, lengthy, wordy, legalese type of statement he made. Supporters of the plan, which include the chemical and fossil fuel industries and prominent climate change denialists, I did a video on that, the lady with the glasses, say the regulation will ensure that future EPA policies are based on science that can be independently verified. The proposed regulation states that the measure was intended to, quote, strengthen the transparency and validity of EPA regulatory science, end quote, and emphasize the financial burdens created by federal regulations. In a letter to Mr. Pruitt, Senator Tom Carper of Delaware and several Senate colleagues wrote, your proposed new policy likely violates several laws with which EPA must comply. The public will be given 30 days to offer comments on the proposal before a final rule is issued, according to the draft. The EPA did not respond immediately to requests for comment. Of course not. They're not trying to get into more hot water. This guy is running his mouth, and they CYA all day. The announcement comes as Mr. Pruitt prepares to face Congress on Thursday, tomorrow, to discuss multiple questions about his frequent first-class travel, large security detail, and other use of taxpayer dollars. Basically going to ask him why he hustling the system. His supporters said they are encouraged that the ethics cloud hanging over him has not stopped Mr. Pruitt from pursuing ambitious new policies. These policies are not ambitious that he's pursuing. He's taking a chapter out of Nazi Germany. These are not new policies that he's promoting, that he's trying to strategize about. This was done during Nazi Germany with the exile of several scientists and professors. And it's repeating itself here in the establishment. Stephen J. Milloy says this is the most important thing he can do. He's a longtime champion of the measure who worked on President Tangerine's EPA transition team and who runs a website aimed at undermining the established science of human-caused climate change. So he's a climate change denial person. He's in denial about climate change, at least caused by humans. He's one of these carbon dioxide is good for the planet. This will really open up EPA science to public scrutiny. Then they have someone who contributed to this. I'm looking for comments, and there are none that I can see here. Let me go up again. Let's see. No, there's no comments there. Okay, so they do have comments here. Well, oh, there they are. I was looking for them. Yeah, so they have 200, almost, almost 300 comments that have been made. And so if you wish to read those comments, you just go to the top, click the little chat box, and you'll be able to leave a comment. I will let you continue the discussion in the comment section. Please like, comment, subscribe, share the video, share the link to this article. Continue to look out for more science talk, or as in this case, science policy discussions, and I'll try to keep up with this story and see where it goes. I'll talk to you all later. Have a great day.